This is the Note Closers Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well this episode of the Note Closers Show. We're glad to have you today or whenever you're watching this or whenever you're listening to this on our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or whatever brand you're watching this on. But we're glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us on this episode. Today's episode is the next evolution in making notes, or making money with notes, I guess is the better way of saying that. And we've covered wholesaling a second ago. We're not going to dive into the full exit strategies yet on this episode, but another easy way to make money with note investing is the use of options, option agreements. Now, one of the best books I think I've ever read early on in my real estate career was Ron LeGrand's How to Make Money in Options and Wholesaling book that he had out that he used to provide to his attendees of his expos that Ron LeGrand used to have. And I used to go 10 years ago. Haven't been lately, but he used to provide that book. And I think it's one of the better stories because it talks about, hey, putting something under an option agreement at a specific price and then going out and doing your best to market that deal to find an investor who's going to pay more than what you have it under contract for, under an option for. Now, it's what's great. That's not really technically wholesaling. It can be that, but I like the fact that you actually take action and put something under contract. Now, you don't have to have a lot of money to do options. Most of the normal option agreements are $10 or $100. If you're using your self-directed IRA to fund the option purchase, it's got to be $100. But we have done options for years in the note arena. Now, a big caveat for those that are watching this and listening to this at a later time is you're not going to use an option agreement and tie up a tape or an asset under a $10 option from a bank like Wells Fargo. That's just not going to happen, okay? What is and can happen is you can use options, all right? You can use options with hedge funds or private sellers of notes oftentimes. Now, a lot of people, a lot of investors, a lot of sellers don't want to tie up a property under an option agreement or tie up a piece of property for $10. And that's the beautiful thing about an option agreement is you can use exclusive options where, hey, yes, for $10, you tell me your price. You want 135 grand? Great. I'll give you 135 grand, but give me a 30-day option period on this that if I can't get somebody to buy it for 135 or fund my transaction or buy it for 140 or 145 or whatever, you have the option to walk away. The only thing you lose is the $10 or the $100 option fee. Now, this is extremely lucrative if you can find the right party, all right? Find the right seller to allow you to type assets under this, or even do a non-exclusive option agreement where you've got the right of first right of refusal. If they find someone to buy it, you get the first right of refusal to match that offering and close. So I'll give you an option on some things. I'll give you an option on option, right? Options are always, in Texas, in other states, when you put a piece of property in contract, you have a contract and then you have an option period, right? Usually 7 days to do your due diligence, get a BPO done or an appraisal done, have an inspection of the property. And if something doesn't fall into with what you like or something shows up, a red flag, you have the option to back out and get your earnest money back. Well, with notes, we're not putting up earnest money, okay? Rarely do we put up earnest money. I have put up 3% before, 5% on larger trades. But if you're buying one-off notes, whether it's a hedge fund selling it or a private seller selling a note, you don't have to worry about it. So the beautiful thing about options is it's cheap. It's a great way to tie up something for a period of time and go from there. So let me give you a kind of a case study on some things that we've done with options in the past. All right. Now, a couple years back, I was getting tapes like many other times. I get tapes in all the time. We get tapes in today. We're making offers on others. as we get to the end of the year, more and more sellers, okay, more and more private sellers are interested in moving assets. And they will often be a little bit more creative to flexible arrangements. And that's where options really come in handy, is really like the last 90 days of the year, the last 3 months of the year, especially December, okay? And so I had a hedge fund buddy send me a list of assets. It was about 116 different properties, or note deals, I'll say, not properties, but notes secured by real estate in all areas of the country, okay? North Carolina, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Florida, Georgia, some in Vegas. This goes back a little bit. So I was like, well, I'd seen I'd seen the guy marketing this before, and I had already bought some assets and moved some assets. I said, listen, I want to say it's literally about this time of year. It's the first part of October. What are you going to do with these lists? I know that you can't move the whole list because it's just not that desirable because they're kind of lower valued assets. And so I said, well, why don't you let me do this? As I was sitting there, there's got to be a creative way to do this. As far as I know, I'm only one of like 2 people that have put this together. And I've ran into the other person that has done something like this. Is the only people we've ever heard somebody do this. I go to the seller and I go, hey, man, why don't you let me put your whole tape under an option agreement, a non-exclusive option agreement for $10. You give me your rock bottom price, give me your reserve price, what you want across the board on all these assets. What will you take right now if you were to dump them all? What's your drop dead price? And give me a non-exclusive option for the for the rest of the year, 60, 90 days, and I'll make an agreement with you. I will share with you what I sell them for, okay? And I'll make you a deal. Anything that I can make $2,000 or more on your asset. So if you say you want to sell it at 6 and I make it at 8, that $2,000 is all mine, okay? But I'll make a deal with you. Anything I sell over $2,000, I'll split it 75-25 with you. 75% of that commission goes to me, 25% goes to you. So if I sell it, so $6,000, I sell it for $10,000. Great. That's $4,000 in profits. Guess what? I'll split. I'll give you an extra $1,000 and I'll keep 75% of that extra $4,000. So they got $1,000. Instead of him getting sold at 6, he sold it at 7, and I made $3,000. Now that was motivation to allow him to do it. Now the thing that you have to keep in mind is most sellers can't market themselves out of a paper bag. Okay, they just can't do it. They don't have a clue how to do a lot of marketing. They're good at asset acquisition. They're not often very good at asset disposition of selling off, unless it's in a bigger tranche. Okay, but that's the beauty about this time of year as we get to. You often have lower balanced assets, not the bottom of the barrel. I mean, you're going to have some fertilizer. You're going to have some stuff in there that just ugly properties. But there's a right price for everything, whether the lot has value or the note has some value. All right. So, his name is Sanjay, and unfortunately, Sanjay has passed from this world. No, sorry, not Sanjay, Sasha does. And if my buddy Doug Roberts is watching, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, or listening in. So Sasha basically says, okay, we'll do that for you. So send me over the agreement. So it's a 1-page, non-exclusive option agreement, $10, signed off on it. Boom, he signs it, sends it back there. I never even sent him the $10. Okay, could have. The thing about contracts, you have to have something on it, whether it's $10 or I could put hugs and kisses or, noogies or whatever. It could have been that. Not that you got to have something exchanging with a contract to make it legitimate. So say $10, sign off, and boom, now I got these 100 assets that I can move. He gives me his rock bottom reserve pricing, and I can go to town. Now, if I've been really smart, I would have funded that dollar amount with a self-directed IRA. And then all the money that I made basically brokering these deals or wholesaling them off would have all gone into my IRA. Now, if it was a self-directed Roth IRA, it would have been tax-free growth. If it was a traditional, I would have just paid taxes on it when I pull it out. But basically what I did is then I got to work on those 100 assets. I literally jumped on different websites. I started creating individual pages. I found photos of the properties. I said, hey, you can pick this asset up. It's actually worth 30. You can pick it up for 9 or 10. Now, it's a note. Pick it up. It's occupied. It's vacant. You have to foreclose. And you work your way through it. And for the next 90 days, I was just a hustling fool. Now, I was literally living in North Carolina at the time here. this is on my 3-year nonstop travel across the United States. And I was staying with friends there in a little small town called Taylorsville, North Carolina. All right. Staying with some friends of mine, Jamie and Lanny Harrington. These people were great. Now, Jamie ran a mortgage company out of Taylorsville, still does. I think she's out of Hickory now. And she gave me an office. She's like, whatever, we're friends. I'd have to make money on deals. Coached them on some other things before in the real estate. And she was cracking up at me because I would come in, I would be posting to Craigslist. I'd be posting, hey, I got these deals, boom, 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 talking to buyers, talking to sellers. And Sasha kind of cracked up at me because I started, after about 2 weeks, I started getting phone. I started really putting some things together. All right. And so I would call him and say, hey, Sasha, boom, I got an offer on this one at 10 grand. It's for 5. This is what you have your rock bottom. Let's get this thing moved. Okay. And he's like, sure, done. So we'd be individual contracts. Contracts would go direct to the sellers on those, or he sent me a generic. He goes, hey, eventually what he did, here's Scott. Here's a contract that we use. You just fill it out, send it to us what it is. Have the money wired in. We'll wire the money right back to you on your part. And that's exactly what we did. So I worked kind of like a broker for Sasha's firm for, the next 90 days. And I made over $100 grand on those deals that I was able to move, just putting something together. I made a deal happen basically out of thin air. And it was sometimes next door neighbors. Sometimes I was jumping on white pages and Spokio and other things like those, tracking down the next door neighbors. Hey, would you like to pick up the asset that's next to you, or the house that's next to you, the lot that's next to you? It's vacant. I work with a fund that's looking to move. Who owns this is looking to move this. I was doing anything I could think of. I was advertising in Craigslist in California to those people that would slice their grandmother's neck for an 8 cap. I was just going on Backpage.com busting stuff. I was sending emails out, doing whatever I could to make things happen. And it was a really good, you couldn't even calculate. If you figure making over $100 grand in 90 days on a $10 option fee, that's a pretty sweet time frame because I went to work on it. I was in front of my computer. I didn't really have a big, not like I have now, a big network of people. I wasn't doing a lot of videos at the time. I was literally just turning and burning using free sources. Like I said, using Backpage. Craigslist was where we got most of our buyers from. I take that back. I did use meetup.com. I did go on to meetup.com and post in different real estate groups. If when I found 2 or 3 clusters that were near an area, boom, go and post, hey, we've got some of these assets here. Here's a photo. Here's what the going price is. Now, the biggest handicap I had with advertising like that is since these were note deals, I had cash buyers. I want to buy the house. Well, you've got to foreclose. This is a note deal. You can pick up this note sheet, but you still got to foreclose to take the property back. But that's not a problem. So it was really good. Average commission on these was like $5 grand a pop. Okay, so I was getting 75 cents on that. Sasha was getting the other 25, but it was a bonus to him to make better than what he did. But it was a trusting situation. So for years until Sasha passed away, Sasha would call me up. Hey, I got some more stuff you want to look at. He didn't always have a lot of stuff to move, but I built a lot of trust that when he did have something, hey, I was the guy that he called because nobody else came to him with that option. He was basically like, now could I have just said, hey, give me $10, give me the whole thing, put it in a contract for $10 and gone from there and not given that extra 25%? Yeah, I totally could have. Did he call to enforce did he market it to somebody else to find a higher buyer? No, he didn't. He didn't have the time to go out and market some stuff. So if he'd have come to somebody and said, hey, they want to pay 10 grand or 6 grand or do it and they can close next week, by all means, go ahead. Take it, bum. I'll still work with the other 100. And it was just that we had a clear communication along the way. And I told him exactly what I was going to do with it. And we made it work. I've done that with a couple other hedge funds over the last couple of years. Hey, let me put this tape under an option. Give me your hard number on this stuff. Give me 30 days to make it happen. We'll go from there. We're going to probably do this a little bit at the next Note Mastermind. Now, the beauty of this, too, is if you have like an educational savings account or Coverdale account with like Quest or another self-directed IRA company, this is a great way to get some quick cash into your IRA accounts, okay? You fund it with $100, Boom, find a buyer, flip it, you wholesale it really fast, flip it, bring the money back in, and it becomes the fact that you invested $100 and you say you made 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. That's a true investment. It's a two quick turn. Now you don't want to run a business out of your accounts. You probably want to do the whole 100 assets or something like that, or 50. But if you did 1, 2, 3 of these once a quarter, did 4 or 5 at the end of the year, you could really boost the amount that you put into your IRA account to make things happen. I mean, you can start off an account, 100, 200, $500, and that could be 5 option fees to make something happen. You don't have to have too much hit to really take things to the next level, because there's a buyer for everything, right? The right price, whether it's the next door neighbor who wants the lot to expand it cheap. I mean, you could do some creative things. One of the things that we've done, and I know that Jay, Bob, my buddy, does, and Wayne does, is telling us if you buy something as a trashed out property, reach out to the next door neighbor. Get a deed in lieu from the borrower. Make sure there's no liens that fall in the first place, but just forgive the debt and then reach out to the next door. Hey, do you want to buy this lot? Do you want to expand your property lines by a little? But give me $500 down and I'll let you make payments for the next 12 or 24 months. And you can set that stuff up in your IRA account, boom, just to kind of turn and burn, to kind of churn a little bit to make things. So looks like we got some Michelle App says this is a great way to use your IRA when you don't have a lot of money. Yeah, it's a great way, Michelle, to make things happen like that. So we have done some creative things with options. I worked with another investor who was creating first and second. So what they did is they bought a kind of a ransacked apartment complex that needs some work. So what they did is they condo converted the property. They went to the tenants, which is near the UT law firm. This is a genius way. The minute they condo converted it to condos instead of apartments, it added the value up immediately. It boosted the value of these assets up to almost like 65, 70K a door. And so they went and knocked on all the doors and talked to the tenants there who were all UT law students or things like that. Said, hey, would you be interested in buying this unit? Would your family be interested in buying the units? We'll offer financing. If you can bring 5 to 10% down, we'll do 80-10, 80-10-10. So 10% down payment, 10% seconds, and then of course the 80% first. And they were able to sell off the 80% first, the closing table, for roughly 90 cents of the dollar. Okay. So if you had a $70,000 condo, $56,000 first, okay, $7,000 second, and then a $7,000 down payment, 10%, 10% second, and 80% first. You're into, if you bought this complex literally for less than 400K. So he's into for less than 40 a door. All right. Less than 40 a door. If you're thinking about this, he's selling them at 70 a door, getting $7,000 down payment on average. Okay. Creating the first mortgage at $56,000. Okay. Get this, selling those $56,000 mortgages off at 90 cents of the dollar. So closer to 50. He's putting $8,000 in off the note sale. Oh, it's great stuff. $7,000 down payment. And then the second mortgage is sitting out there. He could sell those off to an IRA account. That entity that he didn't manage, that set everything up on that, there's attorney managed. Remember, it's important. Don't own anything, but control everything. He was able to move those second mortgages that he bought on an option agreement into his IRA for cash flow. Crazy story, Bob. That Bob and Jay put together. Amazing deal here. I got to see that firsthand. One of the most creative stories I've seen. So, yeah, as Michelle says, great minds, great idea. I mean, you can get kind of creative with some of that stuff if you get a good price. Now, owner finance, you got to be careful on. It's a different time today, different market today than it was 10 plus years ago. You're not getting as good a price in your owner finance mortgages or newly created, newly originated like you would 10 years ago. But the market's coming back stronger. So option agreement is a one-page, really simple, easy form. No, I'm not going to send you an option agreement. You can often find one online. A non-exclusive option agreement is basically the same thing as an option form. It says non-exclusive across the top instead of option agreement. And it just basically is one paragraph. And this says, hey, this is non-exclusive. Seller has the right to still move the asset, but buyer has their first right of refusal to match what the seller's looking at. Now, one of the things that was kind of funny, we used an option agreement to tie up some really nice high-end condos in San Diego on PB, Pacific Beach, one time. Was out there. It's kind of an interesting story. Gorgeous, immaculate. I mean, $1 million plus, $1.5 million property. I mean, it was these 3 units. One was supposed to be worth 1.5, 1.25, and then one like 900 right at $1 million. And we found out the seller what he was into. So I asked him to put an under option agreement for all 3. He did. Gave us 30 days to go out and find a buyer for these. And he was being, I've got a buyer who's going to buy them all. Of course, he could never provide a contract saying that, or an offering that somebody was going to pay off. He was just trying to push the heat on us. Well, took us 2 weeks to find somebody that came in. But one of the beautiful things is we found somebody who was an end buyer, but we were able to actually go back to the bank who's financed these mortgages, the Bank of Arizona, if I remember correctly, and negotiate a note purchase on the notes on these 3 condos at roughly 75% of what was owed, and able to sandwich in a short sale buyer on the back end with us buying the note. But we tied up the property originally with an option agreement, and then we finalized it with a hard contract from a short sale. So we kind of back-ended both deals with it. But options are great. $10, $100, don't really have to do much more than that. The biggest key with option agreements is just having the communication. Honestly, having the huevos, the balls. Ladies, if you're listening or watching, you have balls. They're just higher up, all right, to ask, hey, would you like to put this in an option agreement? Can I put this whole thing in an option agreement? Hey, it's the bottom of your barrel. Would you give me the opportunity to put this under an option agreement and put my money, or put my mouth where my money is, and actually market this for you? And I've told this story, I can't tell you, a couple times out there, especially in my mastermind group. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I actually found the original option agreement on this in my email the other day. I was like, oh, that's a good, I got to keep that in my pocket, because as we get to the end of the year, hey, you're going to see more and more sellers have assets, their stuff they own or stuff that they're looking to get rid of, who are willing to be a little bit more flexible to make things happen. Now, the book by Ron LeGrand, very easy to read too. Like I said, How to Make Money Using Options and Wholesaling. I remember that's the title of it. I may be off, but I'll see if I can't find it on an Amazon link and post it in the comments below here on the Facebook Live. If you're listening out there on the podcast, everybody, just do a search for it and you should be able to get it. But options are not hard. Like I said, it's worth opening up an IRA, Quest IRA, and throwing in $500 to $1,000 and just play around with this. This is a great way to grow your, like I said, your Roth, your 401k, your solo 1k, your self-employed SEP, your SEP accounts, your Coverdales. All right. There's a lot of great things to do with this. It's just a matter of putting in place. You got to remember, oh, I got that little deal, or I got a little bit. Let me put this option on this property. Now, you, of course, if you're going to use your IRA, of course, can't self-deal. So you've got to keep the assets that you're working through a little bit separate than the ones you're doing. You can't have commingling of funds. You don't want to do that. So you'd have to do separate, like $100 and identify the assets that you're trying to option on. Now, great thing here, little secret, and he might not know it, but we'll talk about him. He's not in the office right now. But Greg in my office, Greg Arciso, is an active investor as well. He approached me and said, hey, Scott, I want to make an offer on a couple of these assets. I was like, I got a better idea. Let's see if we can't throw an option on it through your IRA and then move it, help you wholesale it off and make a nice chunk of change as a good ROI. He's like, well, that's a good idea. So I've got a couple that I've identified in a new tape that we're working through right now that he may be able to use that and kind of make it happen. So we'll share those case studies to get rocking and rolling later on in a later episode. But options, pretty easy, guys. It's a one-page agreement. It's more discussion. Hey, this is what we're doing. Give us your reserve price. Give us your hard, fast price. Doesn't have to be notes. You can do options of traditional pieces of property as well, real estate. Oftentimes you'll see options on land. This is a great feature. I know of a gentleman who, before South Florida became what it was years ago, he went around to South Florida years ago when it was just all these kind of old, 3-story hotels, and went around to all the buyers and got options on all that property at what they wanted to. And he put an option on it. He had like a 5-year option period on it. And of course, what happened? Boom, values went up. Well, he had an option agreement for what the property was worth 5 years ago. So what he did, he just went out and found developers who understood what was going on there and negotiated them buying the sale from him, buying the property at the rock bottom price. Well, the guy that signed off on the option agreement, the seller, had to sell it. That's one thing that's important in single family homes or commercial deals. If you do get an option agreement, go and record that option agreement down at the county clerk. I have another investor here in locally, Tina out of Georgetown. She was negotiating a deal here in Austin, Texas with with a seller property. She got him to sign an option agreement. She went and recorded it and had a 1-year time frame. Well, the seller negotiated a sale with somebody else who was unscrupulous, another investor. Well, they went and sold it, but guess what showed up at closing? Tina's option agreement. And so she was able to collect on the difference between what she negotiated with versus what they were selling it for. And she was able, it got a little bit ugly with the seller, but she was able to negotiate. She said, listen, now you signed off this, it recorded it. I have this option agreement for a time period, and you violated that. And so that's kind of a really kind of cool thing. Tina Latte, a realtor up in Georgetown, Texas. The last time I heard her, she was up that neck of the woods, but she shared that story with me on there. So look, if you can get something, back to the guy in Florida, literally he made over $40 million. And I'm not joking, $40 million using option agreements on all that property down there. Now, if I was a betting man, all right, I would go find where the path of progress is going in your city, in your area. Go out and talk to people that maybe they're a mile out of town right now. There's nothing going on except raw land, and yet the cows more than people out there, the blackbirds. And see if you can't put those pieces of property in option agreements to give you a 5-year option for it. Because I guarantee in 5 years, property values will mostly go up. Now, what happens if the value goes down? You just walk away. You're only out what your option fee is. That's one of the greatest get out of jail cards that I've ever seen. It's not a true contract, but it secures your position that it can help you enforce a contract later on for you. So I want it open for those that are listening or watching on Facebook Live, stuff like that. If you guys have any questions about using option agreements or things like that. So, and I'll tell you this, most of your self-directed IRA companies are very knowledgeable with it, especially at Quest. I know that Quincy and Nathan Long and their staff over there understand using options. Quincy and I get into conversations back and forth when we visited. Also, if you're make sure if you're catching this live on Facebook Live, Quest is hosting their IRA boot camp this Saturday, September 30th from 9 to 5. I believe at their offices there in Houston. If not, it'll be over the West. But you can check it out at questira.com to find out more information about it. And I'll be one of the speakers. They got 4 or 5 speakers that they have speaking on their panel. So looking forward to that for those that can join us out there as well. But options are an easy thing, guys. It's not that difficult. Sometimes you just got to be a little bit outside the box. I think a lot of people get stuck up, or you're not stuck up, but they get stuck in the mud, in the rut of making offers. They get scared. Oh, I got to make an offer. I got to close on all of it. If I make $135,000 office, I'm going to have to come up with 135 because all of it's going to close. And then that's never the case. Never do things always close on time and 100% of the time, especially in the note space. So, Jonathan, true story. You just got my first upturn contract. Option contract Jonathan's talking about. Congrats, buddy. You're doing some amazing things. Our good buddy Jonathan Burton down in Louisiana in New Orleans making some things happen. Congratulations, Jonathan. We have to hear about that story. It's true story. I just got my first option. Upturn contract. I think he meant option. But another thing that might be well to do, especially for those that are in Florida or Houston or stuff like that, go around and negotiating with people right now who want to walk away from their houses, get an option on, hey, give me an option to buy your property cheap, and then just going finding other investors that want to buy, maybe doing a 12-month option on the property and going around and find somebody that wants to buy something above, as kind of this scarcity or fear factors kick in right now as the market starts to kind of come back up a little bit. Use that downturn right now, negotiate a contract cheap under an option agreement, and sell that option off later on to a higher price to somebody. Okay. So there's some really cool things that you could do to make things. Yep. Typo option. There you go. I thought so, Jonathan, based on the comments on Facebook Live. So what other questions, guys? Look, options are pretty easy to deal with. I know not many people talk about them that much. There may be others. I just may not notice it, but it's just kind of a little creative niche to securing some things. And the biggest thing is nobody's going to negotiate or for $10 on $1 million in assets. You never know how motivated some seller might be to make things happen. All right. And you don't get a yes without asking. Okay. What's the worst thing to say? No. Okay. No, thank you. Can I get a week option? Can I get a 2-week? Can I get a 30-day? I always like to try to ask for 30 days or more if possible. Can I get a 45-day option? And that's why I work through some things. You never know what kind of situation the seller might be in, or the property owner or the note holder may be in. They may be totally new. They may be the first bit or bite they got on that asset in forever. Who knows? Or in a long time. So they may be more open to your options of putting things under an option as you get closer here to the end of the year. All right. I don't necessarily see a lot of that stuff happen during the summer times or the peak times where a lot of people, oh no, I'm not gonna do anything creative because I'm gonna have foot traffic or get plenty of offers and stuff like that. But as you get closer to December, a lot of the hedge funds, a lot of the sellers will get a little bit more creative and a little bit more open to doing things, especially if they know you can market, if they know that you have a database of some things. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. Actually, if I look back at some things, regrettably, I should have put some option agreements down on some assets that we've been marketing the last few months. I should have done that. I could have saved my position. Wow, yeah, that would have been a mistake. I should have never marketed an asset without having an option agreement on it first. That's what I should have done. That's a mistake that I have made in the last 12 months. And then I wouldn't have had the seller sell off some of those assets to third parties without me being able to know about it. Wow. There you go. A big light just hit me right there, everybody, while we're talking about this. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I think we learn more from the mistakes that we make than from the victories that we have. But if you've enjoyed this, if you enjoyed watching this or listening to this, guys, it's not that hard to do. It's not that difficult to do. No, I won't send you my option agreement, so don't ask. You can go Google an option agreement, and I'm going to find a decent one that works well for you. Okay? But that's really what I love. We've talked about wholesaling, and wholesaling is putting things together, and you've got a wholesale agreement. An option agreement is just it's very closely related cousin to wholesaling. Option allows you to do some things and actually have a little skin in the game. A lot of wholesalers, though, want to just find something and then market it off and then try to go back and put it under contract. This way, you put it under contract, you get a 30-day period, a 2-week period, a 45, 60-day, 90-day option period. Gives you some flexibility for a pretty cheap price. And who wouldn't give you $10 or even $100 to secure a deal like that? Okay? So anybody got any questions, comments out there for me this afternoon? We're filming this a little bit later time than most of the time, but that's okay. Okay, whoops, hang on, did I just lose everybody there? I'm trying to go to the Facebook feed here, see questions that pop up here. There we go. It is failing forward is enlightening. You're exactly right there, Stephanie Goodman Johnson. Learn some things that I could have done to secure things. The beautiful thing about an option agreement, it allows you to hold somebody's foot to the fire. So taking them at their word, great. I trust you to your word on that price. Let's go ahead and put it under an option agreement. $10, first right of refusal. Okay. Hopefully you learn from the mistakes. Yes, that's the whole idea. We make enough mistakes. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of us out there. We always learn more from our mistakes than our successes. Yeah, successes make us look like brilliant geniuses. But how you take your mistakes and how you learn from them, evolve, or mutate into something better. Mutate there. Thinking X-Men in my head. Instead of the X-Men, the Note Men. Evolve is a probably better way to say it. Instead of mutate. Evolve into being a smarter, not only investor, but entrepreneur, so that you don't make the same mistakes later on. All right. Glad you enjoyed it, Teresa. Good to see you. We enjoyed having you in town this last weekend at our fast track training. So want to thank all of you guys that are listening and watching our Monday Note webinars. We've got kind of a cool thing that you can do now. If you're listening on the iTunes and podcast, if you take your cell phone out and text the word NIGHT, N-I-G-H-T, to the number 72,000, what that should do is get you registered or RSVP'd for our next series of Monday Note webinars. Okay. It's one of the cool things that we're doing is trying to make it a little bit more automated so people don't have to go on and constantly RSVP for a webinar every Monday night. Okay. So you text the word NIGHT, NIGHT, short for Note Night, NIGHT to the phone number 72000. You should get a text message back that allows you to opt in to the next one that we have available for you. And we've got some cool stuff that we'll be talking about this next Monday night. Had a huge amount of feedback to last night's Note Night in America. We talked about the end of the world and what I would do if I was starting over. Got a little preview on that in the podcast that we talked about yesterday before last night's webinar. But I want to thank all those that loved it. I know we covered a lot of cool little different nuggets you probably will never hear. That's what happens when you deal with somebody who's got 10 years of experience. This big old melon of a head will often find ideas and, oh, that's a great thing that, it's hard. It's hard to do a Vulcan mind meld with me because this big melon's got a lot of different articles and deals and solutions to people's problems. So, okay. Steph says people who don't learn from mistakes are usually narcissistic, I find. That's an interesting way of putting things. But, yeah, because those people that continue to make the mistakes that aren't listening, they think it's somebody else's fault versus taking responsibility and realize it's their fault. So thank you, Michelle. The replays, guys, if you like our videos from Note Night in America on Monday nights, you can always catch the replays by going to our website, weclosenotes.com, and clicking on the little V, the Vimeo or the YouTube tab at the top for our social media. The website for our replays is always very easy to find. It's Vimeo, Vimeo, like video, but with an M, vimeo.com/weclosenotes. And you'll find our close to 1,000 videos online for you to be able to watch and download. So lots of information in 1,000 videos, okay? Hours and hours and hours of watching Scott the Note Guy from your home, office, phone, or wherever. So that's all I got. This isn't an hour-long session. It's literally closer to 30, 35 minutes for you guys. Option agreements aren't that hard. Guys, just do something. If you see tapes that are direct from the seller, that's a big thing. I meant to say this earlier. You will not get an option agreement from a wholesaler or a joker broker. You got to be direct to make it happen. And that's the only way to make it enforceable. And like I said, if you get one on a single asset, go record it. Go record your option agreement on a single family or commercial deal. It's a low price. Go record it, especially if it's a longer term option agreement. If you're doing something on the edge of town or the path of progress, or dealing with something in a blighted area that's people have gone through problems, i.e. Houston with Harvey or Irma with Florida and the Gulf Coast. A lot of people are just walking away from properties and would be glad to take a nickel and a dime for something that they maybe at one point owned free and clear. So without that further ado, guys, thank you, Don. I'm glad you enjoyed last night. Don says last night was amazing. It took more notes last night than the whole weekend. That's funny. I find that hard to believe. But a shout out to a lot of our mastermind students going out, and especially our fast track students who are making things happen. Right, McDonald, you're doing a great job. I'm already getting people that are actually commenting to me that you're doing a great job marketing. So kudos to you, buddy. Thank you, Terso. Good to see you, buddy, as well. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Once again, as always, like I said before, text the word NIGHT to 72,000 to get on our updated Note America webinar. As always, you can text the word NOTES to the same phone number, 72,000 as well, to get over 80 hours of videos sent to your smartphone. So otherwise, don't forget to check out notecamp.live, guys. We're literally just right at about 2 weeks out from Note Camp 4.0 kicking off. Amazing lineup of speakers. I am working on the schedule as we speak to identify exactly where everybody's going to fit in. I'm an expert cat herder to fit in all the pieces to make Note Camp 4.0 the most prolific note convention for you to take part of. Not only most full of content, actions, marketing, and profit-generating nuggets, but amazing networking opportunities with everybody that's involved as well. So without any further ado, check us out at notecamp.live, everybody. Use the code podcast, all in caps. You can probably get a special discount taken off. So have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.